Growing up in Louisiana, I spent my childhood in a shotgun house, a rectangular structure with doors at the short ends. These houses earned their name because you could fire a shotgun through the front door, and the pellets would exit through the back door. We lived in one of these small homes, a result of my mom's hard work through a rent-to-buy scheme. She worked tirelessly to secure our living situation, but her demanding job often left me as a latchkey kid. My mom's long hours meant I had to fend for myself quite often. I'd sometimes have to get myself to school in the morning, and when I returned home, a hungry man frozen dinner awaited me in the freezer. A note from my mom would accompany it, stating when she'd be back. I appreciated her efforts, but her absence also paved the way for one of the creepiest experiences of my life. One afternoon, after coming home from school, I settled in front of the TV with my frozen dinner. As I enjoyed my meal, I caught movement in the corner of my eye near the front window. Turning my head, I locked eyes with a white man peering through the window. His face etched into my memory, smiling in the lower half, but with cold eyes. Overwhelmed by nerves, I looked away, hoping he would vanish. After a few eerie moments, his face disappeared. I hesitated to close the curtains, fearing his sudden reappearance. Finally mustering courage, I walked over and closed them. Thinking I was rid of the stranger, I sat down, only to hear the buzzer at our house. My mom had always cautioned me against opening the door for strangers, and her friends would always announce themselves. The voice that reached my ears through the buzzer didn't match any known friend, it was him. The man's voice echoed, claiming to be a friend of my mom's and insisting on talking. Fear paralyzed me on the couch. "Little girl, I know you're in there," he called. Panic set in, but I remained silent, praying he would leave. Eventually, the buzzing stopped, but it took me a while to settle down. As I walked into the kitchen, movement caught my eye again. Peering into the backyard, I saw nothing, but I sensed someone lurking, probably the same man. Suddenly, a rattling and squeaking echoed from the hallway. I realized the back door was under attack. One by one, the screws started to loosen. Fear propelled me out the front door, rushing to a neighbor's house. I pounded on their door, glancing over my shoulder, half expecting the creepy man to appear. The neighbor answered, towel-clad, questioning my distress. I begged them to call the cops, explaining the man's attempt to get me. But when we looked, he was gone. When the cops arrived and my mom returned home, they confirmed someone had tried to tamper with our back door. Grateful for the support, my mom apologized for not being there to protect me. From that day on, I stayed with neighbors until she returned from work. The man never reappeared, but the haunting idea lingered, that he might still recall the time he almost succeeded, just minutes away from doing who knows what to me. My journey as a single dad began the moment my daughter entered the world, bringing a profound light to my life. However, this path was not without its challenges. We faced the grief of losing her mother, a struggle that ultimately strengthened our family bond. As my daughter grew and ventured out of the nest, our relationship remained strong, yet an underlying fear gripped me, the fear of losing her, too. At times, the terror of loneliness was merely background noise, something I could drown out with busy distractions. But occasionally, it overwhelmed me, leading to an overly cautious and protective approach. I found myself hesitant to let her explore the world independently. Field trips, birthday parties, play dates, she missed out on them as I feared the unknown. By the time she turned 13, I realized I had never left her home alone, not even for a quick grocery run. A turning point came after months of reflection. I mustered the courage to tell her I was heading to the store alone. Initially resistant, she finally agreed, marking a milestone in our lives. Emotions swirled within me as I drove away, battling tears and reminding myself that everything would be fine. Calm settled in, and I strolled the aisles of Target, picking up odds and ends. Then, my phone buzzed, her name on the screen. Expecting a simple request, I answered. Instead, I was met with screams and crying. Panic seized me as I sprinted out, leaving the shopping cart behind. Driving back, I tried calming her, urging her to explain. I don't know, she repeated. The words, "someone shot a gun," sent chills down my spine. Are you hurt? I asked, my heart pounding. Her affirmative response propelled me into a desperate race back home. Flashing lights in the rearview mirror signaled the police, a choice between facing them or rushing to my daughter. No thought was needed, as a parent, the decision was clear. I sped towards our apartment, hoping the cops would understand. 2 blocks away, the flashing lights mirrored my internal turmoil. I felt sick, realizing I had to explain my actions or face consequences. I got out with hands raised, pleading my daughter was in trouble. The cop's gun trained on me, I repeated the story. His partner approached, and in a moment of understanding, he asked for my keys. My daughter's safety took precedence. With keys in hand, the cop entered our apartment, and I waited, fearing the unknown. The minutes dragged on as my daughter's fate hung in the balance. When they emerged, her blood-stained figure accompanied by the officer, relief surged through me. Urgency set in, demanding medical attention for her. As the ambulance rushed her to the hospital, I found myself in the back of a squad car, arrested for fleeing a traffic stop. The cop, empathetic to my situation, explained the circumstances to the judge. A $500 fine replaced a potential year-long license suspension. It was a small victory, a consequence of circumstances beyond my control. At the hospital, stitches adorned my daughter's wounds. She recounted the incident, a gunshot-like sound, exploding glass while making a sandwich, and a neighbor arrested for reckless endangerment. The neighbor, intoxicated, cleaned loaded guns, unaware of the danger he posed. A suspended sentence and mandatory counseling were his consequences. As my daughter healed, the anxiety of losing her intensified. Seeking therapy became a necessity. Weekly sessions chipped away at my paranoia, unraveling the overprotective layers I had built. While I never became a hands-off parent, therapy offered a new perspective, easing the grip of fear that threatened to suffocate me. Even as my daughter moved into a downtown apartment, my role as a concerned father persisted. The trauma left scars, a constant reminder of the fragility of life. Yet, it also reinforced the importance of seeking help when needed. Therapy became a lifeline, a tool to navigate the fears that lingered. Life's journey, especially in parenting, is a mix of joy and challenge. Reflecting on my parenting style and adapting to new realities became a continuous process. The love and support I provide will remain a constant for my daughter as she navigates adulthood. While fear may linger, the strength to confront it has become a part of our shared narrative. As I look back on this tumultuous chapter, I find solace in the fact that we dodged a major disaster. The scars, both physical and emotional, serve as a testament to our resilience. Parenthood is an ongoing journey, and while fears may persist, the lessons learned along the way shape the narrative of a father and his daughter. I pulled into my driveway on the evening of December 8, 1977, exhausted after a long day at the local jewelry store where I worked. Living alone in a modest duplex in Wichita, Kansas, I usually maintained regular contact with friends and family by phone. Little did I know, that night would change everything. As I walked through the front door, eager to unwind, I picked up the phone to call a friend for dinner plans. To my surprise, silence greeted me instead of a dial tone. Pressing a finger to the phone's switch arms, I hoped for a simple reset, but the silence persisted. It was then that a man's voice shattered the quiet from the room behind me. "Hello, Nancy." Startled, I turned to face a stranger holding a pistol. Panic set in as I tried to comprehend the situation. The man informed me that he had cut the phone line before breaking into my home. When I asked who he was, he promised to reveal it if I cooperated. With his pistol aimed at me, he explained his unusual compulsion, a medical condition that required unconventional methods to alleviate. Assured that cooperation would spare me harm, he ordered me into the bathroom and instructed me to undress. Bound and helpless, I watched as he disrobed and knelt beside me. In a horrifying act of bloodthirsty deception, he began to strangle me, claiming I wasn't the first victim and that he had killed before. I struggled, but he squeezed harder, urging me to accept my fate. In those agonizing moments, I realized I was facing a monster. Minutes later, I succumbed to the darkness. The next morning, the police received an anonymous call from a nearby payphone, revealing the location of a homicide at 843 South Pershing, my home. Officers rushed to the scene, discovering my lifeless body. My family, devastated, received the heartbreaking news, and the police issued a public statement about my murder. Amidst the flood of tips, a handwritten letter surfaced, signed by a man claiming to be my murderer. Titled, "Oh Death to Nancy," the letter spoke of a mysterious Factor X, a compulsion to kill akin to infamous figures like Jack the Ripper and Son of Sam. The letter confessed to other murders, adding a chilling signature, BTK, standing for bind, torture, kill. For 8 years, BTK remained silent, leaving investigators baffled. Then, in 1985, my hometown of Wichita witnessed another gruesome murder. The return of BTK was marked by the discovery of Maureen Hedges' body, tied up and photographed in suggestive poses at a Lutheran church. The authorities were no closer to identifying the killer. Following the Fogger family murders, BTK taunted the police with another letter, commending the killer for admirable work. He mocked investigators and predicted a cold case if they couldn't catch him. The media frenzy around his letter kept him in the public eye. In 2004, to revive his infamy, BTK wrote to the Wichita Eagle under the name Bill Thomas Kilman, confessing to Vicki Wegerle's murder in 1986. The package included crime scene photos and a stolen driver's license. DNA extracted from the crime scene matched my killer's hallmarks. BTK continued his sick game, sending letters, puzzles, and packages to keep the police on their toes. In one inquiry, he asked if a floppy disk could be traced to a computer, revealing his fear of DNA identification. The police, in a misleading newspaper response, assured him that floppy disks were untraceable. Undeterred, BTK sent a floppy disk to a local TV station in 2005. Metadata analysis uncovered a deleted Microsoft Word document mentioning Christ Lutheran Church, last modified by a user named Dennis. A quick search revealed Dennis Rader, president of the church council, driving a black Jeep Cherokee like BTK's. A pap smear from Rader's daughter provided a familial DNA match with evidence from Vicki Wegerle's murder. On February 25, 2005, Dennis Rader was arrested. His chilling reply to the arresting officer hinted at his arrogance. "Do you know why you're going downtown?" the officer asked. "I have suspicions why." Charged with 10 counts of first-degree murder, Rader's bail was set at $10 million. Initially silent during his arraignment, he changed his plea to guilty at the trial, offering no apologies for his gruesome crimes. Sentenced to 10 consecutive life terms, Rader resides in solitary confinement at the Eldorado Correctional Facility. His name, BTK, lives on in infamy, a reminder of the brutal torture and murder inflicted on innocent lives. I remember it vividly, the scariest night of my life. I was around 15, and my parents had left me home alone while they attended a work-related dinner connected to my dad's job. Just a typical evening, or so I thought. I was casually flipping through TV channels, enjoying the solitude, when I heard a sudden knock at the door. Curiosity getting the better of me, I approached and swung it open. What I encountered next was beyond any teenage imagination, a total stranger collapsing onto our porch, face down. Startled, I instinctively took a step back, thinking the guy must be intoxicated. But as my voice grew louder, warning him to leave before I called the police, he pleaded for help. It was then that I noticed the horror etched on his face, a deep slash running through his nose and lips, splitting them in two. I was frozen, unable to comprehend the gruesome scene before me. He had been attacked on the street, slashed in the face and stabbed in the stomach. Within the hour, an ambulance whisked him away, leaving me alone with the haunting images etched in my mind. My parents returned, comforting me as the police gathered information. Unfortunately, I couldn't provide much assistance, and once the authorities left, I was left to grapple with the aftermath. Little did I know, the night was far from over for me. That stranger's mutilated face invaded my nightmares regularly for months. In the realm of dreams, his visage morphed into something even more grotesque, 2 full noses, each with twin nostrils, blood dripping down to 2 different mouths. It was a surreal, nightmarish vision that refused to release its grip on my subconscious. Desperate for an outlet, I turned to art. Years later, I found myself painting that haunting face, a therapeutic exercise to externalize the horror that lingered within me. Although the physical painting didn't withstand the test of time, a photograph of it remains in my possession, a tangible reminder of that fateful night. The painting captured the essence of my nightmares, depicting a face torn apart by violence and etched with the scars of a sinister encounter. It was a chilling representation of the darkness that can lurk in the most unexpected corners of our lives. As the years passed, the vividness of that night slowly faded, but the emotional scars endured. Sharing this painting became a consideration, a way to connect with others who might have faced similar terrors or to simply provide an outlet for my own lingering fears. If you're interested, I could share the photograph on Reddit. However, a word of caution, this is not for the faint of heart. The image is a visceral reminder of the fragility of safety and the unsettling nature of the unknown. Yet, it stands as a testament to resilience, a visual narrative of a night that changed the course of my adolescence. In retrospect, that traumatic encounter became a catalyst for self-expression. Art allowed me to confront the demons that haunted my dreams, transforming the intangible horrors into something concrete, something I could observe and, in a way, control. It's a testament to the power of creativity in healing, a medium through which the unspeakable can find a voice. So, if there's interest, I'll share that photograph, a glimpse into the surreal world that emerged from the shadows of a single, horrifying night. But be warned, it's a journey into darkness, a visual narrative that may evoke emotions you never knew existed.